All right, got that front cap put back on for the last time temporarily. For the last temporary time. Screws holding that up where I need it, where it wants to go. Bolt holes are lined up. The cap is all the way on. Let's go ahead and redraw these lines. All right, drew some lines. Drew them long this time. That way if any part gets rubbed off, there'll be a chance that most of it will remain and I can still use it. Also, so I can run a straight edge. Want to make sure if this front cap isn't exactly straight, if it's veering off in any front, forward or back, I can check it, or check the beam once I put the beam on. Make sure it's not, you know, I want the beam to be squared up with the back edge of this front cap, so the longer lines will let me be able to run a straight edge and check. Also want to measure how far down from this edge it's gonna be. Looks like 14 1/4. I think I'll do 14 1/2. Just give it an extra, just a little extra on that beam versus being a little less. Just in case the cap shifts up or down somehow. 14 1/4. Maybe I'll give it a 1/2 inch and do 14 3/4. So 14 3/4 on that side. And we got 14 1/2 on this side. So that'll be 15. We'll do 15 on this side, 14 3/4 on the other. I got a 1/4 inch difference on that. Alright, got a big old blob of sealant on these sides. At least on this side, it's pretty bad, and it pushes out the edge. It's so thick. So clean that side. Get some chunks on this side to scrape off. Let's see if I can do it without heat. Stuff usually comes off a little easier with some heat. Way easier. Looks good to me. Well, the rain's back. Once I figure out a dry place to cut some steel, I'm gonna go ahead and make these pieces. But I was thinking about it, and I'm just gonna cut them both at 15. I was gonna cut them to match the length of the front cap and weld them in so they match the angle. But I was thinking, what if I go to a junkyard and get a new front cap, or try something different? And more than likely I'll go to an RV junkyard at some point and get a new front cap. It's in a little better condition if I find one down the road. And I started thinking, what if that is cut straight? You know, my front cap is not very straight along those edges, but the next one might be. And it also might be equal lengths as well. Just thinking maybe this wasn't the most accurate made front cap for this RV. I'm sure they're not all perfect, but I think I'd rather them match versus cutting them to... Yeah, I'd rather them be even and match each other rather than match the odd shape with my front cap. A little bit of an angle to it, but they are 3-inch wide beams. So if I just center it, that should be fine. And that might have got warped over time too, sitting there like that, or sitting up against things. So we got this 3-inch by 1.5-inch beam right here, this rec tube. I'll cut two 15-inch pieces and I'll weld them in good and square with the body so they look good. And I'll center them. That way the cap is plenty of room to shift around and whatnot. And if I get a new front cap and that's a little bit different, or if it's more straight or more crooked, should have plenty of width there to work with. Okay, I'm no longer going to center those 3-inch beams over the line or over the edge of that cap, since they're both different. This is about 4 1/4, I think. The other side is about 6 inches to that line or to the edge on the cap. So I'm just gonna cut the difference between the new center is going to be 5 1/4 from this far edge on both sides. I want them even so they don't look weird. And I don't know if I can assume that Winnebago has made every one of these caps exactly the same. They're all probably cut a little weird. So I'm not going to try and center it according to that. I'm going to center it by a measurement from this outer edge. 5 1/4 is the new center. So that will put that edge a little farther forward on that beam. And on this side, it will put it a little farther back on that beam, but still gives me plenty of room to mount it, maybe even recut it if I want, because yeah, it's like one side just didn't get cut very well. So we're gonna do that. We're gonna do 5 1/4 on each side so it's even and it doesn't look weird. And if I ever go to replace the front cap with a different one, if it's cut good versus this one, or it's cut worse, still got plenty of room to work with, and both the beams will be even. good and straight. And yeah, probably gonna need the trim, that front cap, just like right there, make that work. Alright, that beam is all done. Right in this position, getting ready to weld on the backside here, and I had a freaking bird land right on my knee. It was the coolest thing ever. Tweet, tweet. It's still over there watching me. But that was so cool. It's landed right there for about a second before it flew off. Wish I got that on camera. That would have been really neat. Funny too, because it's making all this noise. Tweet, tweet. All right, I'm very happy with the way that turned out. Got in my 3-inch beam, good and solid. Got a little support there. Decided to go ahead and weld all the way around this, except for like a little 1/2-inch spot there so water can drain, since I plan on putting some bolt holes through this. Probably wasn't necessary, but I feel a lot better about that. Could probably put a jack on there if I wanted to and jack up this end of the RV. I wouldn't try it, but that beam is good and secure, both of them, and they are both 41 3/4 spacing from that edge to that edge, top and bottom, even, squared up, just like I wanted it to be. Turned out awesome. I'm really happy with those. So yeah, this edge will sit a little forward on this beam, which will be fine. And this edge is going to sit a bit back, a little bit farther than I'd like, but still plenty of room to make it work. See at the crooked angle that cap is cut at, and then at this edge also runs a little crooked down there, so I might cut that straight. I'll just measure from the back edge of that beam at the bottom, match up this edge with the straight edge at the top of the cap. I'll run it down. Looks like about inch and a quarter, inch and a half back. Do a better job of cutting that straight, and that'll be quite nice. I'll be quite happy with that. All right, next up will be fenders. Not going to bother about making any curves. I'm not really doing curves on this RV. I don't have any way to bend curves easily, so it's just going to be like a, you know, straight edges, something simple. Felt like it would be less work just to cut notches out of these tabs instead of trying to grind these welds flat. Some of them are in pretty tight areas up in these corners, so it would be real hard to grind that out. So I just cut notches. Worked out pretty good. So I cut 4 for this back piece here, which is where the welds are. And then these will be, we'll put a tab here. 2 tabs up front, 2 tabs in the back. I was gonna put them on the outside, then I realized I could just put them on the inside. That'll look a lot better. Got some real thick welds over here. And yeah, I think that saved me some time just cutting notches. That was a pain to get that to work. Wish they made these without the corner cut out like that. I mean, that's handy in some circumstances, but why not have a version of these that'll work on smaller pieces? Barely gives me any magnet to work with. But I got it, and I also ordered a mag switch 165 to help me out with these smaller projects. That was kind of frustrating to get that just right. I'm not even sure if that's, I'm trying to get that piece square with this and not this, because that's not entirely straight. Just a mounting tab. It doesn't need to be perfect, but I don't want it too crooked either. That's actually pretty dang good right there. Alright, all four corners got tabs. The middle tab, I'm gonna wait to put that on until I have a bar long enough to clamp between these two. That way the middle tab is lined up perfectly with each of these tabs. Alright, I got a piece of angle iron clamped between those two outer tabs, and that'll line up this center tab here. Good. Yeah, great. All lined up. That's actually pretty nice. I'm glad I got this. Probably use the magnetic square here. Won't be able to once this bar goes up, but got some stop blocks in there, or stop pegs. So you just pop it in. It's right up where I need on the clamps. This is nice. Hold everything in place. You can get the long side over here too. This will have to move around for that, but that's not too big a deal. Feels like I got a proper setup here. That works. That works nice. I like this table. Never blown that breaker before. That's weird. Been welding all this time off that circuit. I don't know why I would just do that now. Strange. Going from welding on picnic tables and crooked pallet tables, welding on the ground. This is actually a breath of fresh air. I like it. Alright, finally getting into some SketchUp. I've had this program for a while now, and it's real helpful at this moment because I wanted to figure out where I wanted this angle right here to start at. So, went out and measured. Well, first I placed the top bar. I wanted that 6 inches down. Originally wanted it 7 inches down, but 6 inches puts it right at the top of the tire. So I'm going with that. So we got 6 inches. We got a guideline drawn at 6 inches, which has helped me place this top bar. And then I went out and took another measurement of where I wanted the angle to start curving over. That is at 11 inches. Oh, right. The top of the bar. So that is at 11 inches from the top. And that puts the curve of the tire right about there. There's nothing too complicated, but That was pretty helpful. This program's a lot of fun. So we got our 1-inch bars here. Our angles cut. And some guidelines to help place the starts of these angles, and that will tell me how tall these pieces need to be. Will be 3 11/16 inches on the front. That is a 22.5 degree angle cut there. And this is a 23.4 degree angle. Close enough. Yeah, that was pretty helpful. I like this. Alright, I got some measurements copied over from SketchUp. Let's see how that works out. Making this 4 1/16 inch from the farthest point to the farthest point. And this is too short to work on the speed square because it's not long enough to reach this gauge at the bottom, or this scale. So I marked .20 degrees on this 2x2 and copied the angle with this T-bevel. Added it to my list to get an actual angle finder. That'd be real handy right now. But then I just trace the 20 degree angle onto the piece I want to cut. So I got that figured out. For this shorter piece, everything else should go a lot easier with being able to use the speed square. Alright, this 2x2 actually came in real handy with writing down degrees. We got 20, 23 and a half, or 22 and a half, and then 23 and a half, which is what I'm using on these top bars here. You got 20, 22 and a half, 23 and a half over here, 20 there. So instead of trying to find that each time with this speed square, I'm just using the T-bevel and lining it up with these angles, these lines that I've marked. So I need to cut this at 20. So I'll just grab that angle from right here. Lock that down a little tighter. Alright, so I got my 20 degree. And I can put that, let's see, that needs to go like that. Just gonna mark that and then set the saw as well. Alright, there's all the pieces I need for one side. Actually, I went ahead and cut all the pieces for both sides. I thought I would hold off and just do one side first to make sure all my measurements were right, but it was looking pretty good, and I just wanted to get all the cutting done while the weather's nice. That's looking pretty good to me. Yeah. Plywood's all warped. But yeah, alright. That is what I wanted. Straight as an arrow. That turned out nice. works. I like it. That to be any better. Put these up on the pegs. Unless I want to grind the welds flat, but oops, that doesn't unscrew. Let's just do this. Alright, this just came in the mail today. Should be a handy little tool there to help me get some of the smaller stuff squared up and mounted. It'll be handy to have for things like this. Where I'm working with just a small space. Oh, these things are crazy strong. I like how you can just flip it on and off with a switch. That's crazy. Alright, I like it. Yeah, that works nice. Alright, there we are. 2 fender frames. They're identical. They turned out awesome. Gonna go ahead and cut a little support bar for the middle, just because why not? A little extra support for the long stretch of bar there. All right, got a little middle support there, center support for the framework. Now I just gotta go around and grind the welds flat. All right, I like it. Alright, I got those welds ground down and cleaned up with the flap wheel. Looking real good. There's going to be some bolts going through the framework, so I drilled some weep holes at each corner just in case water gets in there. Alright, I like what I see. I like it a lot. just getting things lined up. Already pre-drilled the mounting tabs with a 5/16 inch hole on all the tabs. So I'm going to line it up, put the rest of the clamps on there, and then drill the holes through, and that'll put the fender right where I want it. I've left some gaps just so I didn't have to come in here and try and grind out a bunch of welds, especially up in the corner. I would have had to get out my die grinder and a burr set, and it's just kind of a pain doing that sometimes, and I didn't really care about having gaps anyway, so I left a gap here to avoid the welds. But at a later time I'm going to add like a tab to fill this in. I could even add a hinge. I was thinking about maybe that'd be nice, is to put a hinge on this side, and then this could just swing out when I need to get in there. But I don't think I need to get in there too often. I mean, I can still get up under there. It's just, I think if I do any major engine repairs or even a replacement down the road, it might be nice to be able to take these off. So I'm not too worried about that either. I could cut the 16 gauge to go all the way out to fill that in, but I just really don't care. It's not a big deal. Left some gaps so there's wiggle room. I didn't have to try and get in there and grind out the welds. I like it either way. What I'm seeing is making me very happy. But that is exactly what I wanted. That's just so cool to finally have that done. It's a possum. Got a possum hanging out over here while I make all this noise. Oh man, magnet works good. Getting out all the shavings. Holy moly. That is actually awesome. You can hear all the jingly crumbs slowly disappear or go silent as it gets near the magnet. That works so good. Alright, a few more crumbs, and I think that'll do it. There's just one little piece that doesn't want to come out. There you go, got it. Every last crumb. Nice. I like it. Nice and clean. Whoa. This thing vibrates forever. That is really cool. That's crazy. It's got some resonance to it. Some finely tuned RV Fenders here. I'm sure you're not hearing this as good as I am on camera, but boy, that is cool. Resonating. Kind of relaxing. All right, they're both free of debris. Not a single piece left. All right, everything lined up, looking real good. Love it. I love my fender frames. Just kind of want to leave it like that, but that would be silly. It just turned out so good. just hand tight for right now, just to see how it looks. Might as well take them off so they don't rust up, and so I could get them painted later on. I like it. That looks awesome. Let's get the other one drilled out and put on. Take a step back and enjoy the finished product. Oh, that looks great, actually. I love this. Boy, boy, do those look good or what? I like them. Gonna paint them Ford gray, of course. I'll bring them back inside so they don't get rusty, and we'll paint them at a later time. And so I could come in here and put on these forward or front mud flaps, which I'll probably just mount right here or something. Might just do that later. Move on to some other things, like the side skirt. I'll go from here back to this corner. I'm gonna put a 45 right there, so it'll be like 45 and then out. And maybe get the bed started at some point, but probably not in weather like this. So more than likely gonna move on to some interior stuff soon. This is awesome though. I love the way these turned out. Ah, yes, the front cap too. I'd like to get that on as well. Front cap and the side skirts. Side skirts so I can finish or have the remaining holes drilled for the final marker lights. And then the front cap, because that would be so awesome to get that finally put on once and for all. Get another look at these in the nice weather that we're having today. Getting a short break from the rain. A little bit of sunshine. It's real nice.